GovSchool, and today's discussion is going to be on the RFP. We're starting up on YouTube Live. We should be coming to you just shortly. We'll get that set up first, we'll then start letting everybody in the room. Good afternoon, everyone. As you're starting to come into the room, we want to thank you for joining us today at GovSchool. This is our service at govdirections.com, and I want to welcome you here on this hot June day. Here we're located in Atlanta, Georgia. We're certainly glad you're taking time to join us either here live in the room on Zoom. If you are, please maintain your mute status. Helps out just with the background noise. If you do have a question, though, we want to make this as interactive as possible. I'd like to share with you, we are live on YouTube. So for your privacy reasons, be aware of that. So when you are recorded immediately and the information is there. But do please maintain the mute status in the background. It just helps out as we go on. Letting everybody into the room, we'll just give everybody 1 minute. If I do mute you, it's nothing personal. We're just trying to make sure that everybody has the same experience. Okay. In the process. So we all are glad you're here. If you don't have an RFP in front of you, I want to go ahead and encourage you to go into your account, log in and pull one off. And because I'm going to show you some tools that you might even want to use today. Okay. And in the let's see here, in the chat box, which I'm going to open now, I'm going to give you some documents that you can then go and take a look at, including the slideshow that you can use. Feel free to do that. It is on a Google Drive, and I appreciate you crediting us if you can, or share when you share it. Let them know that we're here to serve them. But that is the Google Drive there for you to log into. In addition, I have a little like a booklet that I've written. I was asked so many times, what it really is an RFP, but I decided to go in and actually write this and put it in a PDF form for you, so that you can take it home with you and use that as you like. Okay, I can't really share that one. I think I have to drop it into the chat box, and I'm going to do that right now. Just 1 second before we get started, so that you can have some documents that you can actually look at and use as we go along. And some of you may know, if you attended some of my classes, that I teach at a graduate program, and I help future procurement officers learn how to write RFPs for you to use. And so I've decided one day to reverse that and to come in and actually teach you how to respond to them and use give you the heads up on how they actually do that. Sometimes they follow my instructions, sometimes they don't, and so please take everything we do as a goal, I guess, and then we'll forward that. It is an RFP procurement line. Still got a number of individuals in the room and getting them into here. If you are just now coming in, please maintain your mute status as you go along. In the chat box, I have some documents for you that you can take and use and be there. I'm giving everybody just a moment. This is always a popular session, so we'll give everybody just a little bit of time to get into the room here. I do appreciate you taking time out on this Thursday. Everybody's heading to the beach or the lake or some water, hopefully, to cool off. I think it's almost 90 degrees today here in Atlanta, and you can't really see my background. I've got this new background where there's a shelves on my bike that one day I'm gonna try to ride. We'll see how that happens. All this, you live in this virtual world, and that's kind of appropriate today because I'm going to share with you some virtual tools to help you as we go into this. We've all heard about AI, and I think we've all concerned that the students we have out there are going to use it to now do all their homework and everything else. I'm a big believer in taking tools and using them to your advantage. And so I'm not going to approach it that way. I'm going to approach it a way that, here is a good way to use something that's available, almost like a calculator, in order to improve your responses. And just know that, while some folks think they're going to take over the world, I'm not one of those. And you just need to corral the information, make sure you're reviewing it and using it to your advantage. So here we are today, and I'm going to get started. I thank you all for joining us. I'm still getting one after another coming to the room. Let's just get in there. I'll give you a background. We're located in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been in this market segment since 1998. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections. Our team is about 20 individuals who are working on your behalf to deliver. Our primary objective is to provide you access to local, state, and federal government contract listings. About 5,000 of those are issued every day. And we want to match them up to you. So we teach you how to pinpoint what to really look for when you see those. And then what do you do whenever you actually decide to respond? I'm going to give you some tips today as we go into this. Background, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I've won over 350 contracts in 34 states. My specialty has been in classification and compensation work, which basically helps governments set up how they're going to pay individuals. And I want to share with you that that's a common theme at the local government level, and I've had some success in doing that. One of the problems I ran into early on was learning how to find those bids, find those RFPs. I said, surely there's a better way, and that's how what led to us moving into the sector with GovDirections and now RFP delivery. RFP delivery, of course, is a geospatial using some intelligence methods to really come through and pinpoint for you. And I will share with you over and over again how important pinpointing is. There are so many listings, some 5,000 calls for bids and proposals issued just about every day, over 1.5 million listings per year. It's a $6 trillion marketplace for contractors. And so it's a large one that you can be quickly overwhelmed. And so we learned early on, so it's not just identifying, but also teaching and helping you understand how to actually pursue those RFPs so you can win them. Learning to win is what I call that. Still coming in. Everybody's wanting to learn today. That's a good thing. I thought everybody was going to be on vacation already. We've got a 30 plus in the room. And then more on YouTube. If you're on YouTube Live, please note you can't type in the questions. I don't respond to those until later. You can come and click through and you can join us right now in the room and I will respond to those. Everything that you're doing in this sector, I always like to start off. This is my favorite slide. It's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Okay. This is about a softball team and Tom Hanks was a coach. And I think they actually got a new series. I was watching it on Netflix the other day. It's called A League of Their Own. And, everybody can play softball, but you got out there. If you want to be the best and you want to be the winner, it's hard. And if it wasn't hard, then everybody would be out there doing it. And so just know that going into it, I don't want you to ever shy away from things. Know that you're learning every single day. I still learn something new every single day. And that's important as we do that. Our primary purpose today, I'm going to identify the structure of the request for proposal. Okay. There are many contracting instruments that local and state and federal agencies use. We want to focus today on the one that most of us respond to. And that's because they're looking for you as a subject matter expert to advise them. There's a whole theory of why governments contract with private companies, and not only that, but companies contracting with other companies. It's the theory of the firm. If you reach back into maybe that graduate school class that you might have had in business administration or public administration, where you learned Professor Coase, who came up with the theorem, and it's the concept of why we work together. And then, just at the lowest level of understanding is simply that we're not all subject matter experts in everything. So we need to reach out and instead of trying to do it all ourselves, contract with each other. And that's the basic concept of contracting. And the request for proposal is a process of accomplishing that goal and giving you the information you need in order to respond back to them and help them out with something that they are not experts at. So they're leaning on you to be that subject matter expert. I'm going to walk through each section of a request for proposal and understand local governments, especially. A lot of times this information is the way they do things. It's not so succinct. It's not all in the order or the method we'd like. And sometimes there's a merging of concepts and documents and so forth. So the same sort of information I give you today for the request for proposal can lend itself to the invitation to bid, the request for quotes, and other documents that you might be responding to. So get this foundation first, and then you can use it in others. And I'm going to explain to you the importance of each of these sections. I'm going to actually use an RFP that I've identified just a few minutes ago as an example, and I'm going to show you the details within that individual document. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, so I'll bounce around on the internet. If I do lose you at any given time, please note something in the chat box or try to get my attention. Somebody go out there if we get lost some way or another with all the technology. Someone's already asked if this is being recorded. Yeah, yes, we are on YouTube Live right now. And immediately after this, it is available for you in a recorded version. You just go to YouTube Live, excuse me, youtube.com/govdirections, and then go to our live channel. Sorry, I'm losing my voice already. I'm drinking just a little bit of water. This is the live setting. And then last, we're going to talk about AI, and I'm going to introduce you to some concepts of how to use artificial intelligence to help you read an RFP and determine the parts that are most important to you. And in fact, you could now even have it, draft you a response, or maybe have the initial draft at least in place. But it's still in the early stages. They're releasing information and new systems every day. So you do want to make sure you the old-fashioned proofing it. Get your friends to review it for you. Go read through the whole thing, and you're going to do a better job. But this is our purpose today, and so let's get started. Before we talk about RFPs, I want to tell you that there's this concept of the way we contract with each other in between governments and private sector businesses, and we use contracting instruments to do that. I don't think I'm the one that came over that terminology, but I think of it as a way to get on the same, using the word instrument. It's the same sheet of paper, same sheet of music, and so that we're singing together, okay, in the process. And there's different instruments that are used for different purposes, and so you're going to see these all throughout the requests that you find in your daily alert or anytime you go to a local government website, and so you want to be familiar with them. The most common to start with is the request for information, the RFI. And oftentimes it comes in another version, the sources salt at the federal level, or even a request for qualifications at the local, state, and federal level. Okay. The basic concept with these three types of instruments is that they're trying to determine who is qualified or who can provide the services and supplies that they need before they bid. Oftentimes to see if there's a competitive marketplace, to see if there's a competitive small business marketplace. Other reasons are testing the market, okay? Oftentimes giving you a preset, like the request for qualifications. They want to know everyone who has plumbing certifications in a state, and only certified plumbers are going to be able to respond to these bids, or engineers, or certain types of lawyers. And oftentimes industries themselves will drive these types of documents because they want to make sure that, if you're a part of a qualified sector, that you're competing against other qualified individuals, that somebody's just not popping in, giving them a low cost and then bidding against you, and not, at the end of the day, they're not even qualified to do that. So it's building a preset marketplace. And so if you see these, don't ignore them, first of all, because it's a great way to sometimes go straight to contract. If you're the only one responding, they may not need to even go out to bid. And remember, as we're talking about all of these, the governments have the capacity to contract it with you. It just at almost any time. Okay, the concept that they have to bid or they have to do this or have to do it this other way is just not there. They prefer that, and oftentimes are legislatively required to start that way. But they can always do a sole source or some sort of reasonable test in order to go straight to contract with you. And oftentimes that can be led through that RFI, the RFQ, of the source of salt. Other times during the year, for example, like request for qualifications, a local government or state government might want to go ahead and pre-qualify you, and then every agency can buy off that pre-qualified list, and you're just one of many. You have to do some more traditional marketing, but they go to preset you. So here's a price structure, maybe a catalog of some sort, and then you're all working together, and you're marketing to them and working to win that business. Okay, so these are open-ended calls, and then we have getting to the invitation to quote. Okay, here is oftentimes somewhat informal. Okay, we're looking at a situation where a government, maybe they're going to hire somebody to do pest control. I had a wasp near me earlier. I need to do that, and so I go out and I say, hey, I need you to come in there and give us a pest control for 1,000 square foot building. And so what's your price? And maybe I'll go to 3 or 4 that's registered in my database, and I get a price, and then I just give the award. Nothing too formal. I got some competition, and I know I've got a comparable price. Sometimes it's more formal, and where you got 3 days to respond. fax me your information, email you your information, email me a quote. I'm going to go most likely with lowest bid or best quality. And it's not going to be too formal. Okay. And so that's there. Good number of contracts are like that, oftentimes referred to as the ITQ or just the quote. Okay. And then we have more formal, saying low cost situation where they're looking at primarily the specs are clearly defined. If you're in this industry, what you're going to be bidding on. If it's a bottle of water, or maybe you're selling AirPods, and you know exactly what they're looking for, and I need you to give me a quote for 1,000 AirPod packages or something like that. Okay, it's there. Its specifics are very tight. There's no room for discussion. They don't want you to give them an opposite. They want you to tell them exactly what your price on these types of bids. And so that's the invitation to bid or the request for bid itself. Okay, all of these, just as a reminder, governments are not creative. Okay, and so they're going to be very specific in what they want. And so it's your job to give them the information they're seeking, not to come back and really you're an entrepreneur and you're creative. That's given if you're in business. And the governments are not quite that way. They want to tell you exactly what they want. They only want you to respond to what they're looking for. So always remember that when you're reading any of these instruments. But my favorite, and the one I'm going to talk about today, is the request for proposal. And the reason why is because there you get to shine. Okay, you're the one who's telling them what you're able to do. The government itself has an objective. Typically, they have they're trying to achieve something. They've been charged with something by the city council, the county commission. And they've talked about this for probably likely a year or more. This is not something they do just at the last minute. There's a lot of thought put into it and a lot of individuals at the table. And so sometimes they can be somewhat elaborate. Other times they want you to be more elaborate. And they say, I just had one earlier. They want a 60-page response. I mean, my goodness, that's like a book. I don't know. Maybe I have to pass that one up. But that's so that they're going to tell you exactly how to respond to them, so you can be uniform in nature. But they want you to tell them how to accomplish what they're trying to achieve. Okay, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I'm going to give you the definition. Okay, question: when you are doing the product part for the invitation to bid, you need a wholesale or retail license. I'll get into some of those details in a second. That's the kind of questions I want. So start throwing those questions into the chat box, and I'll get to all of them. But I want to make sure you understand a request proposal is a solicitation. Okay, that basically they want your response. They want all of you to respond if you're qualified. Okay, it's competitive. One of the first questions I get from clients is, Mark, I'm looking at this thing. Isn't it already decided? Isn't this just this is already given that who they're going to give this to? No. The answer to that question, no, it's not. If they've got an RFP on the street, it's a solicitation. It's a competitive situation. They want you to give them, if you're qualified, a response to that, and you have get a shot at it. In fact, you have a great shot at it. Usually, at the local government level, I see most times 3 to 5 clients that I'm competing against, and that's it, or that are competing against on an RFP. And so your odds of winning are pretty high to begin with. So you just got to follow the instructions. And I just to point out that it's made through a bidding process. So you're competing against others, okay? And they want to make that uniform. So they're going to give you some evaluation criteria in order to look at that, in order to measure you all against each other. There's no scientific methods of evaluation, really. There really isn't. You put 5 people together in a room to score something, they're all going to score it differently. But if you get on an average of 5 over and over again, they're all going to score it about the same. So always practice giving others the ability to score your RFP using the evaluation criteria through this bidding process to measure. Okay, and as just as important, it's also a document issued by an agency or company who is interested in working with you. They want to procure. They're doing something. It's valuable to them. It's a service or a valuable asset. That means they put a lot of time and effort into it. So you should too. Don't just do something that's just at the last minute and get it to them. I'm going to teach you how to make sure you can do things quickly, but make sure you put some time into it and take it seriously, because oftentimes they've been doing this for a year in order to get this document ready. And so it's there. And it's always to a group, and they want is done in a business-like way. Okay. So a request for proposal is a solicitation made through a bidding process by an agency or company interested in procurement of a commodity, service, or valuable asset from potential suppliers they want you to submit some business proposals. That's the basic definition. And so when you see them, it's going to seek to accomplish that objective. Okay. And so each of them, in some way or fashion or form, they're going to have some other parts, but the typical parts you're going to see are going to be framed typically in this order as well, that are here. And I always teach, whenever I teach how to write these, it's ABCs. Okay. ABCs: accuracy, brevity, clarity. We know this, the technical writing skills that you should gain. And so understand that. So whenever you see it, should be clear, clarity, it should be brief, it should be accurate, everything you do. And your response back the same way. So keep that always thinking in the back of your head, the ABCs. Take out words you don't need, take out sentences you don't need, keep it brief, keep it accurate. Don't overpromise things, and make sure that you can deliver. Okay. Maintain your mute status, please. And that certainly helps out with everybody in the background. Okay. And so the first thing you always want to look at is a statement of work. Okay. That's going to be typically the first paragraph. Oftentimes that's all this, it's almost maybe 2 or 3 sentences. And that's a good statement of work. If it's going in a little bit more detail, maybe it's a complex project, but it should tell you really what they're hoping to accomplish. Because when you read that, the first thing I'm going to teach you here today is that it needs to do something. And that is a cold play. Okay. You're the one that I wanted to find. When you read that statement of work, it should start singing in the back of your head. This is great. This is perfect for me. This is exactly what I was looking for. And then you know it's the right one. If it doesn't do that, walk away from it. Okay. My first piece of advice here. It's $6 trillion marketplace. You will find a perfect opportunity for your company. That is no doubt. If you're working in government contracting, if you've got a company that's viable, you will find a business in the public sector. So don't waste your time on things that don't really match you. Okay. Because you're not going to do well in the response, and you're not going to get the contract anyway. You're just going to waste your time. So the first thing you want is that statement of work singing to you, you're the one that I wanted to find. So it's going to be 2 or 3 sentences, and it's going to be perfect to your company. If it does that, then move forward. Okay. If it doesn't, move away from it, look for something else. Next area, you're going to get less defined here. Technical specs. Here, the government's going to tell you what they're looking for you to accomplish, and you're going to respond back to them and tell them that you can accomplish these goals. Oftentimes, you can't do that. Okay, there's going to be 80% threshold, 70% threshold. You will learn to know which ones you're going to respond back to. You know, if I can get up to 75%, I'm paying attention to it. If it drops below that, then I probably need to step back. Okay, and can reconsider, because it's really not a great match. But I can't do everything. Oftentimes, I'm going to team and bring in some other individuals. Other times, the government themselves don't really know what they're asking for. And so nobody's going to respond back and provide that as a part of the project. So you're going to be level in that understanding, but never walk away from something because you can't match all the technical specs. Okay. In addition, never leave anything unanswered. So if you can't do it, tell the government in your response back to them that you can't do it. Okay. Don't leave it out there. Okay. Don't just gloss over it. Always speak to it. And whenever they give you the technical specs, it's most likely in an ordered way, in an ordered method. Always use their order. Okay. Don't reorder to you. Okay. The government has a contracting officer that's going to review you initially, much like a procurement officer, and they're just going to be looking at a check off. Okay. Don't make it difficult. Don't make it go looking for things that's in your response back to them. So give it in the same reordered, in the order that they've asked you for those, and speak to every single technical spec they're asking you to speak to. Okay. And as a part of that, you're going to have a schedule. Okay. And the schedule itself is sometimes twofold. The first, on one part of that, is the schedule of response to the RFP. Okay. Making sure that you can get things back down to them. They want maybe a 10-day turnaround. They want you to have it in the office by 2 o'clock and so forth. Okay. Pay attention to all those details, making sure that you can meet those deadlines when you first approach it. The second part of that is the schedule of work. That's actually what you're going to do, when you have to have it done, when you have to have it delivered, and so forth. Okay. And here are the deliverables that go along with that schedule. and paying attention to those. So they may want 25% of it by a certain date, 50% by another date, and so forth. I'm giving you some generalities here, but that's going to drive your pricing method, and most likely, and they're also going to end their payment method back to you. Okay, and so pay attention to that, because that's going to impact your profit of your operation and how you're going to approach it. Okay, and make sure first that you can deliver. If you can't, tell them. I wouldn't always walk away from something I can't. They're going to most likely a lot of times adjust the deliverables. But if I'm way off of it, I'm not going to. It's probably a waste of your time. They really need you to get something done in a certain time frame. A lot of times it's specific, so be specific with it. Other times it's a 4-month project, and if you start a month after they'd asked you to, because they're running delays, then you got to work with that. Okay. And so be aware of that. Now, whenever they give you a list of deliverables, you use the same process for the technical specs. And that is that you discuss that back to them in your response. How are you going to provide those deliverables? How are you going to meet their goals? And oftentimes that's tied to the technical specs as well. If you're doing maybe, for example, consulting of some sort. Okay? But never reorder. Okay? Always give them the information back to them in the same ordered process. If you can't do something, speak to it. And if you need to bring in a subcontractor, do that. Have the information ready to go. And you're going to find, I have a Google Drive. I have everything in it. I have all the technical specs I've ever come across in the type of work I would do. I have an answer for that technical spec already written up, so I can just lift it and use it in the future. And then also have the typical deliverables and how long it really takes me, and you sort of measuring those. A lot of times these items are going to become a part of your, what I call indicators of success. Okay. This is, if I see this in a contract, if I have this amount of time to do the contract, then I'm going to be more likely to win that business. Okay. And then also be more likely to have a profitable situation in it. Okay. A lot of that starts with the title of the bid and then goes into the statement of work. If I'm not matching up some indicators of success in that statement of work right away, I really probably have decided to walk away from it. These could be all kinds of indicators. Okay. It could be something based on demographics of the organization. It could be based on the work itself. It could be based on the fact that I like to work in South Dakota, and I want to be close within 20 miles of a river, so I can go, if it's going to be a month-long contract, I want to be able to go fishing. So these are the kind of things that you might want to put down in your indicators so that you know that you do better whenever you have those available to you. Okay. And so have that there. Now, the contract terms and conditions, this is how we're really going to work together. Okay. Contracting is a big part of it. And this is truly your business profit. Okay. And that's where it's driven. But so know that, first of all, you're not likely to be able to change the contract term for any kind of contract. It doesn't happen in local, state, and federal agencies. They're working with the department attorney. They're working with the state's attorney. They're working with the county attorneys. They don't like to make changes. It's not likely to happen for you. Okay. No exceptions. So make sure you can live with those. Okay. If they don't have one in there, then throw one out. Okay. Go ahead and send it back to them, even if it's not part of the potential RFP response. Go ahead and just give them a potential contract just to, open up the door. And that's good. But if they have one, make sure you can live with it, because it's not likely to change. This is traditionally how we deal with problems, the forbearance and so forth. If it happens, where are we going to lose money? How are we going to make up that money? Things like that. You need to know that going into it. The best thing about working with government, as opposed to, I have a lot of clients that say, send me a proposal. They with no guidelines. Okay. And so, but governments, they don't do that. They say, here is a proposal we want. And not only that, we're going to tell you exactly how to send it back to us, including who you're going to address it to. What are you going to put on the outside of the envelope? Where are you going to put your quote for your price, if at all? You're going to tell us this in this order, all there for you. So for goodness sakes, pay attention to it, because that's the first test that you have is getting past the procurement officer. Okay. And the first test that individual has is making sure you can follow some instructions, because the last thing they want to do is to pass you through when you can't follow instructions. They could care less if you're the lowest cost. They really can help in times. What they're more concerned about is that you are a good bet. Okay. When they pass you, that means that they did their job vetting you, that you're going to be able to win this business. And not only that, to be successful, because, if you're not, who's going to get caught on the carpet between the city council or the county commission? It's that procurement officer. They don't want to have that happen. Don't, that's just not good. Okay. They don't want change orders. They don't want things like this, because that's where, it just gives them it doesn't make them look good. Okay. So they want to look good. Remember that. That's an important part of decision making. Then you're looking at your qualifications and experience. And while, this is one, a lot of times it's pie in the sky. This is really what we want. But the truth of the matter is, especially in today's marketplaces, you can't get everything you want. And so you have to make some exceptions. And believe me, if you don't have it, most likely your competition doesn't have it. Okay, so you understand that. Don't walk away from something just because you don't have a pure match to it. Now, here's where you're going to actually start what I refer to as performance research of some sort, where you're looking at other competitors who are potentially bidding against you. You can go in there and you'll be able to know who's going to be competing against you. You start looking at their qualifications, their experience, the other evaluation criteria, and start measuring up. And you'll find that you most likely do measure up. The other thing is, big question I get, Mark, I'm brand new to this. I don't have any qualifications, no experience. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You started your own company. You're out there, you're bidding, you're responding, you're qualified. Okay. You got some experience to sell yourself. No one is going to sell you like you sell yourself. Again, there's a quote, I'm not sure if I use it here, but Alexander Haig says, saying your capabilities, tell the folks who you are, and no one's going to do anything except negate you. Okay. So don't let anybody else define you in the process. And then we're looking at cost breakdown. Oftentimes cost breakdown is going to be put into another envelope, not even a part of an RFP until the second stage. Other times they really want it as a part of it, but almost always it's a very small percentage of the actual decision that's being made in local, state, and federal government. Okay. That comes into the negotiation. You're almost always traditionally in the same market with each other. And so it's not that much different. And if you've done your homework right, it's going to be dollar differences. And so they're not so focused on that. More importantly, are these other items that you can deliver, that you've got the qualifications and experience the best of the group that's there. You met the format of the proposal. You can deliver the contract term and condition. You can meet their statement of work. That's important. And they're going to measure you. And this is another great thing about working with government is they're going to tell you how they're going to measure you. It's an evaluation criteria. You're going to have a matrix of some sort, and they're going to say this year, I'm going to give you 60 points. If I'm giving you 60 points for the fact that you understand the deliverables, well, my goodness, that's a significant chunk of the points. So make sure you pay attention to that part. Okay. And if 10% is the breakdown for cost, then that's a small percentage. And I look at that going into projects. If cost is not a big factor, I'm always at the 75th percentile. Because I could come in there and I can win the other parts because I've done this kind of work for a while. And, now I've been in the business 30 years. I've got 350 contracts under my belt. And so my cost is going to be a little higher because even if I'm higher, it's the percentage breakdown. It's not going to be that great of a hit for me. Okay. And so I've got a good shot of that. Now, when I first started out, that just wasn't the case. In my first contract here, I live in Georgia and I was a young person back then. And I did a contract in Vermont and won that contract there. I had to do it by having I was in the bottom percentile of the pricing going in there. But I did have some I was good. I was ways to sell them. I had something in contracting with them and it became a part. But here are the typical parts of an RFP. And whenever you see an RFP, start looking for each of those. I'm gonna stop and look at some questions before I go too far. Okay. Somebody said, once again, question, when you are doing the product part for the invitation to bid, do you need a wholesale or retail license? They will tell you that in the bid itself. If they don't speak to it, then you don't need to speak to that, okay? Oftentimes you do need to be, if you're competing on providing widgets of some sort, most likely that's going to be an invitation to bid, and the company itself is going that you market or you brand from will require that in order to be able to offer their product, okay? That's going to be driven outside the bid process itself, but between producers and sellers, okay, in that process. That's my answer to that question. You would need to speak to the individual companies that you're remarketing, okay? I'm a specialty contractor, CA concrete contractor in California. I'm struggling to find bid opportunities since I've had most likely to be a subcontract. How do I find opportunities with PC or PMs, the prime contractors or the PMs there? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. The PM, most likely prime of some sort, but essentially subcontract opportunities. Okay, there's two ways to do that. First, when there's actually a request. Okay, and so governments will do what's referred, prime contractors will do due diligence and and good faith efforts to actually reach out to you. They'll advertise traditionally in newspapers. We do have those advertisements on our delivery, and they will be marked with the word subcontract before, a subcontractor, or maybe SPE of some sort, or MBE, depending on what they're trying to appeal to, and they will be within the trades themselves. The other is to watch for the awards and for the large contractors, and they'll see who's pulling down the bids in those. You almost always see that at the local government, state government level, and then you can reach out to them. In addition, make sure you monitor, we do for you as well, the Small Business Administration Subnet. Subnet is a place where prime contractors grow to allow to publish these requests there. Now, knowing once again that we're pulling these kind of details. In addition, remember local governments oftentimes won't even use a prime for some of these projects, and they'll be doing small purchases, medium-sized purchases for your services. Make sure you're following the category trade concrete. Okay. I'm stuck on capability statements. Is there a certain template to flow? Capability statements are so important whenever you have when you're responding, and specifically at the federal level. If you don't have one, we do have a capability flip through. I'm going to just pause just a second here, and I'm going to give it to you, okay? That you can take a look at and see what everybody's doing. We help clients with capability statements, not necessarily in-house, but with we have folks we refer to, and they'll be glad to help you. We actually will provide a capability statement for you with any annual subscription to make sure you reach out. You can talk to Dale about that if you have a question. Capability statement. For 1 second here, I'm going to give this. I like to make sure I satisfy 50 for class. Okay. And then I'm going to share this. This will be worthwhile because you'd like to see what your competition's doing too. Maybe some of you guys have update your capability statements. You can do that. We teach you how to do it yourself. Dr. Cynthia Harper is a great resource. I call on her frequently, and she teaches a class on how to do these. And so here is the link to that Google Drive document. It's available for you, and you can see what some of your competition is doing there. Okay. And so as we go on, let me go down. Okay, one of the RFP mentioned about insurance, which discouraged use from bidding. Does this mean we need insurance before? Insurance is a requirement, typically within the contract terms and conditions. It almost always gives you the ability to get the insurance once you win the contract, but before you awarded it. Okay, so you have a window, typically 10 to 20 days, 30 days. So most of us can go out and get an insurance policy or a planned purchase, and the insurance company can tell you they will be willing to insure you, give you a cost, and then you kind of hold them to see if you win. Okay, don't buy it until you win the contract though. Insurance is almost always required. Most of us have typical business insurance. If you don't, you probably or should get it, and it's not as expensive. You know, most of QuickBooks, ADP, these companies will provide it to you. So go up there and get that basic, and then you can always scale it up if you need to. But don't buy one before you bid. Buy it when you're awarded or when you win the contract. For experience, do we include private sector experience or government? Well, you know, I would do any experience I have. You know, they're going to want you to have some government experience, but you've got other experience. Maybe if I don't have enough government, I might supplement with private. My attitude is give them experience that's common to what they're looking for. So if I work for a private company in Tennessee, and I've been in Tennessee, sure, it's the same line of work that we're looking for. Sure, you know, get as close as possible. But just because you don't match it completely what they're looking for, it doesn't mean you shouldn't give them. Give them something. Okay. Where did you say prime companies look for subprime? They're required on good faith effort advertising. You can actually Google online good faith effort. There's some specific newsletters that do that. We actually, and they're free usually, but we actually publish those as well at Gov Directions and RFP delivery. And you can look within the trades area. Okay, trades area. Do we have one-on-one mentoring programs for RFP? Anybody who contacts us, I will work with you on a 3-hour basis. You just need to reach out if you're a member of our services. That'll get you started. And if you need something beyond that, we have individuals we can refer you to, and they can certainly help you. We have more elaborate mentoring. We also have a program, an entrepreneurial program with Professor Chris Hanks, he started the entrepreneur program at the University of Georgia, Kennesaw State University, widely recognized in this field. And he leads groups through. There's a new group starting in July, and that kind of helps you through traditional business issues, but also with a flavor of government contracting. Okay, so that's there. What was the link for the class you mentioned about capability saving? You always go to govschool.com. I'll type that in and look at our schedule. And you can see the classes that we do, their routine. These are all recorded at our YouTube live channel. That's youtube.com/govdirections. And you can always go in there and there's the number one on capability statement itself, or reach out to, and you'll see there, Cynthia does that for Dr. Cynthia Harper. She's the best. Okay. Call our offices. It's 800-492-8523. And you can, we can link you up to that kind of information. Okay. Now, going back, one thing I always, as we said earlier, making sure that the document sings to you, that the song. I can't say that enough. Okay. It really does need to, because you don't want to waste your time. But then also remember that, the other concerns I always get is that, Mark, I see these bids, I don't have enough time to respond. Well, somebody's going to have enough time. Governments, even though they got 3 or 4 days, you need to be able to respond in 3 or 4 days. Sometimes you get 2 months. I had one the other day. I didn't get a response back in 3 or 4 days. Then I took 2 months. So work expands. Use that time, but always be prepared to respond in a quick basis. Okay, have that Google Drive ready to go in with this area here. Have a sample statement of work, a sample check, sample schedule, sample list of deliverables ready to go in your business, and how you're going to respond to it. And then you can just lift those. The hardest thing you should be faced with whenever you get an RFP or a bid is getting someone to notarize it. Okay. And that can be a little time consuming. Have that ready to go and there so that you have that. But know that that's there. And Xavier said that he actually can help with capability statements. We like for you to connect with each other. So certainly do that. And know that we don't endorse any of you, but we want you all working together. Okay. So be aware of your privacy. Okay. No one should be asking for money in these chat rooms and things like that, but you can contact with each other afterwards. Okay? As we go in there, we see, I'll give you some helpful tips. Make sure we talked about this. Read the entire proposal from the get-go when you first get it. Okay. And pay attention to these areas that we discussed. You don't have to go past the first paragraph if the statement of work doesn't sing that song to you. Move on at that point. Okay. Set it aside. Come back, talk to your colleagues, make sure you're a good fit. Okay. Complete the proposal, and then move on. Okay. And always know as you're going through there, the only source of knowledge is experience. Okay. And so we want you practicing in this practice. So let's go out there and take a look. And I'm going to introduce some concepts and I use this little new term, so chat RFPs, because we want to chat up with our RFPs. So let's go to the web. And I'm going to show you an actual RFP. I went in there earlier and I saw this one here. This is at RFP delivery. You can come in, you can do some basic keyword searches to find those. We said earlier, concrete. I can type in the word concrete and then hit search bids. If you want to start using filters and keyword don't work together a little bit, not the best way for user interface. Just know your settings are there, your daily alert, your save bids, all that information there. If you're not sure, you request a demo. I'll do a one-on-one with you. There's also a video that kind of shows you how to locate some of these bids. But here's one for RFP for Contract Lifecycle Management Solutions in Washington. It's due on July 24th, and it's a state and local listing, enterprise related. So I'm going to go in there, take a look at it, see what's there. It's going to open up. It's going to tell me that Washington School Information Processing Cooperative. These are governments, but most of us don't even know exist. Okay. And in the process there. And so know that, okay. You can go in, you can go online and see more information. We'll tell you the RFP number, the contact. A lot of times these smaller agencies, there's just one person to contact. There's no need for a name. You call in there if you have a question. They're going to explain that to you. They're going to give you some basic information. We're also going to give you some competitive intelligence if we can add something to it. But we want to slow you down. This is something I'm interested in. First of all, I want to save it so I don't lose it, because there's over 1.5 million bids coming through here. It's a lot of bids. And you can easily lose something the next time you go there. It's not going to be number 3. Okay, just know that there's bids coming in 2 a minute. I can view my saved bids if I need to go find it. It's called capture managing. You're managing those processes. Now, our front system are only active RFPs, but you can then go in and look at your saved RFPs here and know that they're keep them there as long as you like. Okay. Sorry, I'm losing some of you in the, not losing you, but I'm getting more. I'm beginning to let you in the room. I'm thanking everybody for coming. If you do come right now, make sure you have your mute on. We're continuing this session up until my wife calls me to go have dinner. So we'll see. So there we go. And so you can download the PDF there and see that. But our main goal when you get here is to lead, get you to lead. Okay. So you're leaving us, going to the original source. At this point, you're working directly with the government. Okay. They want you working with them. That's important. If they have a question, if you have a question, they're going to tell you how to respond to them. They have a public notice, and they're also going to have the PDF for the actual contract. Okay. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to open up. Okay. This is the document that we were talking about. Okay. Now there's some handy little items that I'm going to leave. So this one here is going to be, it's not about a 22 page, not too big. I mean, I've seen some of 1,000 pages. Okay. And so, you know, we don't want to let scare you away. Okay. But there is a great little tool that I recommend. That's called Chat PDF. Okay. And we can come into it. Let me just open up another one here. Go back to that one, chatpdf.com. And I think it's actually free to some level. I use it a lot. So I have a premium subscription. I'll link to it on the Gov Directions, but I think they give us $1 or something to recommend folks, but it's a great little tool. So make sure you just get in there and just set your account up. Okay. And you can do this from a URL or actually the actual PDF. Okay. So if I got the URL here, let's take that first, but actually that's not it. Okay. Here it is right there. Okay. Now here I'll go in, I'll drop that from URL, type it in, go get it. Let's see if it works. It goes in, it finds my PDF, starts analyzing it for me, reading through, doing all the dirty work. So I don't have to do these things anymore. Now I'm going to do it anyway. It's important. This was taking just a little bit of time. Sometimes it's not working straight from it. There it goes. Okay, so it gets me a summary of the RFP. Isn't this great? I mean, who thinks of this stuff? This is smart people in the world. What is the deadline for submitting the proposal? They even give me some questions, and I'm interested. So I want to start with that. So let's go ahead and maybe ask this question. And tell me the deadline. Okay, is there a specific format or template that the proposal should follow? And we're going to look at that. So it's already read through everything, looked at some of the things that highlighted. Yes, here's the format. Okay, so I'm going to follow that format. Okay, my intent to participate, my proposal form. Now, it quickly gave me some pieces, but I'm going to go follow my Mr. Knowles' response too, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at that initial executive statement, what they're looking to accomplish, that information about the project itself. So the objective here is to provide a single cloud-based solution for creating, and I don't have any clue about cloud-based solutions, so this really is not for me. But if you're in this field, that should sing to you. That should say, hey, yeah, I can do this, man. This is exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm gonna pursue it. So then I start reading into it. They give me some details about the organization, what they're seeking to accomplish, and I'm gonna pay attention to some of these words, okay? Because whenever I respond back to them, I'm gonna start incorporating these words into my response, and it's going to give me a better. Because you want to be there, you want to have the same culture, you want to help them with the process itself. So pay attention to that. In addition, this is going to give me also some indicators of success. So I'm going to start seeing things that are common to me. And so, if it's a group of 1 million students, I'm going to know if I can work with 1 million students. Now that seems a little overwhelming with me, but if you're in that field, then that's going to be like a range, and you can check that off. And you're going to start watching for the things that really speak to you and that are indicators for you. For example, mine, I really do. I was just kidding earlier, but I would like to work in the Dakotas. And there's reasons for that. I like to go. I'm at a point in my life. I want to go there and enjoy my work that I do. And they also need to be small to medium-sized organizations, and they usually are there. So they're not large. Like I literally outside my back window here, I can see the city of Atlanta building, and I'm not going to go work with them. It's too big. It's just too time consuming. It would take me a year to do a project that normally takes me a month in another place. And so I don't have that kind of time that I want to put into it. So these are the kind of things that you're watching for. but they're going to kind of overboard on their actual work scope here. But that's probably to your advantage. But I've gotten through to understand it. But here, what is the purpose of the RFP? You know, they're going to let you know, are they going to actually go to contract with you, or is this more maybe in this particular case, an agile environment where you're coming in and you're going to actually help them structure the final RFP that they use to hire? There's all kinds of different ways they'll approach things, but they'll spell that out to you so that each of you who are going to respond will understand what you need to be working with, and how you're going to respond back together. So you're all treated fairly. The goal is to treat you all fairly. Okay. And so they give you the schedule there. You got to make sure you can pay attention to that schedule. You know, they release RFP. They want you to have this back to them by July 24th. That's about a 30-day cycle almost, at 3 p.m. Pacific time, not Eastern time. Okay. You don't want to miss it. I guess it actually, you could get it there at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's a little ahead of time. But you don't want to get it there at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Okay. They're not going to give you 3:01. They're going to rule you out. I actually had a client, multi-million-dollar contract, got it there too late, missed it. And I've had others, forgot to sign a page, missed it. Pay attention to what they tell you. Okay. They're going to tell you when they're going to award it. And then you're going to watch, and most likely you're going to watch the board meetings and agendas of board meetings to see who they're going to award it to. You aren't going to be, if you win it, you're not likely to be notified until they get the approval of the board. They have to tell the board first. And so you have to get in there and watch that. And you can know if you won something before you even win it sometimes. Okay. And in this case here, though, they're actually going to do, you're going to do an intent to award, then they're going to conduct negotiations with you. Okay. And then they will come up with a final contract. Price is not the option here. The ability for you to actually do the project is. So you can look into some of the details and vendor inquiries, how they're going to go about doing that. How are you going to submit? Okay. You're going to send them to an individual there by email by a certain time. Okay. And they're going to tell you all these details. Sometimes they want you to upload it. And I'm goodness, right now, if I try to email anything to Yahoo, it doesn't get through. So you got to practice this, get it there earlier, seek a confirmation that it's there, things like that. That's on you, not on the government. They're not going to give you some excuses to be able to use if for some reason you don't get it there in time. Okay, so make sure you know that. They're going to give you the actual requirements and so forth, and the listing there, and look at their evaluation criteria. In this case here, that's actually the highest. The cost proposal is the highest I've seen in a while, 40%. But 60% is something else. 60% is your ability to understand, you got the capability to provide, and you can conduct the business. Okay. So, right away, 60%, most of us can get 60 by paying attention to what the government's seeking in terms of your capabilities. So Xavier, I hope you do a good job at capability statements, because, that's where you really want to get 30% right there, and have that ready. Now, the truth of the matter is they want to want you might give them a capability statement. It's certainly a perfectly good document. They want to frame your capabilities in a different way in the process here. So you don't want to just send them a capability statement, no matter how great it is. Okay. Just gotta, somebody maybe send me something accidentally. We don't want to have that happen. Okay. Administrative requirements, other details. Usually you're going to see some small one-offs, but you would see most likely in this state the same sort of requirements that you can see over and over again. Okay. And so here they're going to give you, and just like at the federal level and the capabilities, the federal level will tell you they want, certain things such as your core competencies, your codes, and so forth. Local governments don't need your NAICS codes, things like that. It's a different field, completely different level of government. You want to pay attention to what they're asking for. Okay. And have that ready to go and speak to it in the same order. Okay. Always do that. Always, if they give you a numbered process, it's on purpose. Okay. And so get that back to them. Okay. Pay attention to the details, but nothing here that looks too difficult. All the forms ready to go. And I would think that most of us could fill this out and have it ready and returned by the 24th if you have an interest in that. Okay. Knowing that when you do one of these, keep it in a folder called responses. And then the next one who does this, because if they're successful in buy-in or acquiring a cloud-based contract lifecycle management solutions, you know what's going to happen? Another government that they know is going to call Cynthia and say, "Hey, Cynthia, can I borrow your RFP? I'm going to be buying the same thing." And so you're going to look and feel about the same way as another government. And so you've already got everything ready to go. And you're going to find that to be the case. Okay. And so over it again. So don't copy something and leave Washington at WSIPC in the actual response back to the next government. Okay. So don't have that happen. That's how oftentimes it's very similar. Okay. Because this is the only time this government's going to probably go out for this kind of an RFP for maybe a decade. Okay. So they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time they do that. So I'm going to stop there, see if there's any final questions, and let you guys all go today. As you have questions here, feel free to start asking those now. I'll be glad to try to help you if you have had time to take in some information here. So we have a capabilities expert there. Know that there's other folks that are out there. You should, we do not endorse anywhere in here, but feel free to contact with each other. Make sure you do reference checks, things like that, just normal business practices and people in chat rooms here. The problem in running into being outbid and RPs on units in the marketplace. I have a website capability statement. There's so much information, it's overwhelming. I haven't won anything. Well, there is trial and error. Literally, the very first contract that I won, it was probably after about 7 months worth of really trying. And I was constantly just, I felt like a defeat, but persistence pays off. And so you have to understand that. Now, it's also important that you do a price research. I have a class tomorrow on price research. Making sure you're keeping information that's available to you, is publicly available, and knowing that this is a marketplace where oftentimes companies will come in and bid high, look at their competition. Next time they come in, bid a little lower. They're trying to get where you're at. It's not collusion per se, but they're playing this game, and making sure you are. Whenever I bid and I respond, I go in, first of all, I don't want to respond to something that I don't have about a 60 to 75% chance of winning. I know that by my indicators of success. Okay. When I go into it, and I never deviate from my price point, regardless. And so I'm always bidding at this point in my life, 75th percentile. I'm looking at my marketplace. I'm taking every one of my competitors whenever I actually bid on a project in consulting. And I just stick with that approach. Okay. And you'll have success with that. So don't get overwhelmed. Be methodical in how you do things, and be persistent, and you should have success. I'll always be glad to take a look at any RFP you want to issue. You reach out to me, I'll be glad to do that. Juanita says she writes a lot of proposals, and they mostly use the term statement of need. Yes, I agree. Can you elaborate on the difference between the statement of work and statement of need? It's just it's a terminology. Statement of work is when I use the SOW. It primarily because that's the type of project. So they're asking me to come in and do some specific work. A statement of need, oftentimes I would think that it's more, here is that what we're hoping to achieve, the objective, but they do, I think, mean the same. So thank you for pointing that out, Juanita. Okay. How do you write proposals to others as well, for others as well? I do. This is actually to Juanita. Okay. So if you're able to, there's RFP proposal writers. They're there. Make sure you test their work. It's always good. Know some percentages, but you can't do everything yourself. Okay. I think there's value for all of this. Stuck on the capability statements. I gave you some. There we have. If you choose ChatGPT or write your capability statement, you just got to make sure. Yeah, there's all kinds, and they change it every day. So you go in there to ChatGPT. Now, the truth of the matter is, I really, while these systems could do this, I really think if you're in the business, it helps you intellectually understand what you do. Because what happens oftentimes is the government puts you on the carpet and says, explain to me what your company, and you need to be able to have a good response. I do the what I call the grocery store challenge on each part. And there you basically say within 3 to 5 minutes, you should be able to say what you do. So somebody comes up to you and say, hey, now I know you started this new company. What is it that you do? Whatever rolls off your tongue, that's how you start your executive summary. Now, what's your core competence? What made you competent to do this? Whatever rolls off your tongue becomes your core competencies. Okay. Certifications more defined. These are things that you get. Okay. And so forth. Okay. Going through here. I should put in a plug in because we do capability statements, and the price point right around 300 for a member, 500 without, and we have some great individuals who can help you with that. Okay. Any final questions? I really enjoy working with you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Our number 492-8523. I do appreciate that. And I'd be glad to help you. Always come through if you like, and you can actually link in with me. I'm at linkedin.gov/govdirections. What are the few things that you notice a lot of beginners have trouble with writing RFP, and few tips you wish you knew as a beginner? I think the number one thing most people have problems with is putting words initially onto paper, and don't be so fearful of that. One thing that I always refer back to, somebody asked me, is skunk and white, I think it is, skunk and white. Elements of Style. It's a PDF, freely available on the internet. I give every young person I know is heading off to college, even this document. It teaches you how to write. Writing is difficult. Okay, it shouldn't be, and this helps you with that process. Okay, it's a free publication at this point, but it's been around since I think the 50s, and it's just a great way to learn how to write technical writing ABCs. Also, a few tips when you first know you're as a beginner is you gotta have staying power, folks. Okay? It takes you a little bit of time to really get into the marketplace. The truth of the matter is going after federal government contracts is very difficult. State and local is where it's at, and state and local has very typically minimum contract responses, so you have a better chance of doing that. Go ahead, Randy's an RFP writer too. Okay, and RFP writing is a science, and so make sure you get a good one there. Okay, and that's important. And also you can drop in your capability statement in this chat. I always encourage that. I've done that before. It's always an excellent way to net. It's 5 o'clock here, and so I think I'm heading out, and I'm getting buzzed by my wife for dinner. And I do appreciate you stepping in, and thank you, and have a great evening.